We continue with our introductory chapter. Okay, we looked last time at the rule of engagement. We said to do ethical hacking, you need to get permission, okay, by signing rules of engagement template where you specify everything that you are allowed to access within that organization and to do some pen testing on those. We also talked about the visibility and gun security, okay, how you can do some types of balance between providing security to the company or to the system, and at the same time you will keep the functionality of the system, and you will let's provide ease of use or facilitate. You are not, for instance, when you provide security, you are not hardening the system access or any sort of, let's say, type of access to the system by providing security. And we mentioned, let's say, as an example, when you try to have a password, a really complex password, which makes pushes people or users not to abide, or if they abide to your, let's say, complex password, they can, because they cannot memorize it, they will, let's say, write it down on the sticker and they stick it on their computer or on their screen. So this is, let's say, as we said, that you need to have a balance between these three. On top of that, of course, any security system needs to provide confidentiality, integrity, and availability. And we started by looking at the main hacking phases. We said that any hacking phase will go through phases, through reconnaissance, scanning, gaining access, maintaining access, and clearing tracks. We started by looking at the reconnaissance, okay, where you are trying to discover, okay, and to get as much as information you can from your target, whether it is an organization or an individual. So you need to gather information. Gathering information, doing reconnaissance by, for instance, targeting your organization and try to get the information about its employees, what type of operations the organization is running, for instance, the types of network, the system they do have. You try to gather as much as information you can in order just later to use that information for your next phase. Okay, you cannot go, for instance, to the scanning phase if you don't do properly the reconnaissance phase. So it is very important. Based on the information you gather at the first phase will dictate how successful will be the other phases. Okay, so it is very important to spend time to use appropriate tools for this phase in order just to gather as much as information you want and you can. In reconnaissance, we mentioned that we do have passive and active. Passive, that means you are gathering the information, you are acquiring that information without being involved directly with, let's say, or interacting directly with the target. Okay. However, for the active, in the active, you are interacting with the target directly by any type of method. Okay, by going physically to their site or to sending email to get the information and whatever. Okay, so this is the reconnaissance phase. The second type or second phase of any pen testing or ethical hacking is scanning phase. Okay, when we talk about scanning phase, it is what is known as a pre-attack phase. What is a pre-attack phase? That means you try to scan the network. Okay, you scan the network to get some specific information, to look at specific information. Okay, for instance, you gathered, let's say you gathered through the information, through the reconnaissance phase, among the information you got is that organization is, for instance, using class A network. Okay, so this is the information you have. Now in the scanning phase, you will scan that class A network. You will scan the whole network in order just to discover, let's say, any live PC, any live computer, or any live devices that will respond to your scanning phase. And this is what we are going to cover in the next chapter, inshallah, what is the scanning, what are the different information we can gather, we can get through the scanning, and how we can do it. Okay, what are the tools that can be done in order just to do the scanning phase. Okay, as a pre-attack phase, okay, you are trying to gather the information to verify, for instance, which device, which computer they do have, what type of operating system they do have, and so on. Okay, included in the scanning, the port scanning. You do port scanning. Okay, port scanning means you need to try to discover what are the different ports that exist within the systems in that organization. Which ports, for instance, are open, okay, and which ports are closed. And this is the type of information that you can get through port scanning. And also, when doing scanning, okay, you will extract information. The information that you can extract through the scanning phase is, for instance, as I mentioned, what are the different machines that are on, that are alive, okay, the different ports that does exist. Let's say if I have discovered that I do have a machine XYZ that has responded to my ping. For instance, here we are using ping. For instance, I do have, let's say, as we mentioned last time, you do have, when you discover that I do have 192.168.1, you discover that your organization is using this network. Okay, so you have to scan to do your scanning. Okay, and you have to scan the whole network. Okay, 1, 2, for instance, let's say 255. You will scan all these IP addresses. Okay, and among those addresses that you are going to use, okay, I will use, for instance, I will ping all those IP addresses, and one of the machines has responded. For instance, 192.168.1, let's say 78. This machine is alive. It has responded to my. This machine has replied. Okay, I got a reply from this machine. What does that mean, that I got a reply from this machine? That means this machine is on. It is alive. Now, what I will do in my, I will, let's say, try to discover in my scanning, during my scanning phase also, whether this machine or what type of port it is using. Okay, which ports are open. Okay, what operating system is running, what applications are running. Okay, so all this information I can gather from just by having, let's say, doing scanning phase. Okay, if you can see here, we gathered this information through, let's say, reconnaissance. Okay, through reconnaissance, I gathered the information. I discovered that my target is using this network ID. Okay, so what I did, I went to the ping. I did, let's say here, we gathered this information. Then I did the ping. Okay, the ping I did was, let's say, through this network. Then what I got, for instance, I got a reply, okay, from this machine. Okay, then what I will do scanning. And here, when we talk about scanning, I will try to discover, okay, these types of information. You can see later there are many information, but among the information that you want to gather, to extract during the scanning phase is this type of information. For instance, what are the different ports, and I will scan the port. I will try to get the operating system and try to find out whether it does have some applications running within that system. Okay, Shabab? So this is in terms of the scanning phase. Once you do scanning, you try to gain access. This is the next phase. Okay, that means here you try to obtain access to the operating system or to the application that is running on that computer or on that network. Okay, I discovered that I do have Windows 10, for instance, is running on that system. I try to penetrate that Windows 10. I try to get access to that Windows 10. Okay, so you can get access at the operating system level, you can get access at the application level, or you can get access at the network level. It depends on, let's say, the type of application you have discovered, the type of operating system you have discovered, and based on that information, you choose what level of access you can get. Okay. In the gaining access also, okay, you can do what is known as a privilege escalation. What does that mean, privilege escalation? That means, for instance, you got access as a normal user or as a guest user, then you escalated through some procedures, some vulnerabilities you have discovered existing within the network, within the operating system. You just wanted, because accessing the networks or accessing that operating system as a normal user doesn't provide you much information needed. So what you want to get more control on the machine accessed. So what you do, you need to have an administrator privilege. You need to have an administrator access or the root access to that system. And this is what is known as privilege escalation. Okay. Then, for instance, you get through escalation, you can use password cracking, denial of service, whatever of attack you want to do based on, let's say, the level of access you manage to get, let's say, against that specific machine. Okay. Once you get access, what you want to do, you want to maintain access. It is not, let's say, beneficial for you as a hacker, as ethical hacker or pen tester, to get access for a few minutes and you are logged out, okay, or you are discovered. So you need to maintain your access. Okay, that means you need to try as an attacker, once you are inside that, let's say, operating system, you need to take ownership of the system. It's like it belongs to you. That system will belong to you. It is your, let's say, it's like your device. Okay, that means you maintain the access. And what you can do on top of that, it's not just owning the system itself. You will prevent other hackers from being able to access your system. Okay, let's say, for instance, you do have, you discovered that let's say you have a system, okay, and you manage to, as a hacker, you manage to access the system. Okay, you access the system, and there is another guy. Okay, there is another guy who tries to access the system, because this is, let's say, this is a public system. Okay, this system is a public computer, PSU computer, for instance, or any organization computer that is accessible by everyone. Everyone can, if you discover the vulnerability on that system, there will be other hackers who are, for instance, who might be interested of attacking that system, and they also discover the same vulnerability. So what you do, if you are the first one who managed to access that system, what you need to do, once you get access to that system, you take ownership of that system. That means you will prevent anyone from gaining access to that system. Okay, you don't want this guy to be able to access your system. Okay, this guy cannot access the system itself. Why? Because you have prevented anyone. For instance, you discovered the vulnerability, then it's like you created a backdoor on that system and you close that backdoor. No one can can get access to that system except you. Okay. What you can do also, maintaining access, you can manipulate, you can download, upload any data, any applications, or you can change the configurations of that hacked system, for instance. Okay. And also maintaining access, or under the umbrella of maintaining access, you can also launch further attacks to other systems. Okay. You can use that system. It's like your starting point to attack other systems. Okay, specifically when it comes to the DDoS attack, where you will use that system as a slave, which you control it remotely, and that you are attacking another system through that system as a botnet, or it is considered as a botnet system. So this is with regard to maintaining access. Another step, which is the final step, which is clearing tracks. Okay, you don't want to be discovered. You want to keep your access hidden. Okay, and you don't want to be discovered by let's say an antivirus, or by an IDS system, or whatever let's say application or devices that have been set up on that organization in order just to discover, to detect any suspicious activity. Okay, so any activity you do on that system, you need to cover your traces. Okay, so you need to hide your malicious attack from that system. Okay, why? Because you have intention to continue accessing the system. It's not like, for instance, a system that you access once, you get the information, and you leave that system. Okay, here you don't have to hide. Maybe you might have want to hide in order just not to be discovered that let's say the data has been stolen from that machine. But if you want, now the main thing in clearing tracks will be applied to someone who wants to continue access to that system. He wants regularly get access from time to time to get access to that system, to check whether there are some updated data to steal from that machine. Okay, and he wants to be unnoticed, and no one will catch that guy or that let's say hacker when he accesses that system. Okay, here what you do, you will delete the evidences here, because let's say in case if that hacker has been let's say caught, okay, there will be no traces, no evidences left behind him when he attacked or when he accessed that system. Okay, here what he will do, mostly the hackers will override the logs. Okay, where everything is logged, is written. Any access to the system will be written, the time of access, by whom the access was done, what was done on that system. So what let's say the attacker will do, will go to the log file and try to delete the log file or change the content of the log file. So anyone who is monitoring the access to the system, when they look, people who are looking at the log file, they will not notice any unusual activity within that server or within that system. This is what is known as clearing tracks, and you want to hide the identity, or the hacker wants to hide their identity and their let's say breakthrough into that machine. Is that clear, شباب, for these phases?
واضح دكتور.
Okay. Now, in terms of skills of an ethical hacker, so if you are hider, or if you want to work as an ethical hacker, what types of skills you need to have? Okay, you can have technical and non-technical. For the technical skills, you need to have a depth knowledge of the different types of operating system. Okay, specifically those that are widely used, like Windows, Unix, Linux, Macintosh, for instance. You need to have a depth knowledge in networking concept, because everything will be done remotely. You will access those operating systems. You will use network, so you need to have the concept of networking. Okay, you should be expert in computer in technical domain, any types of technical things, whether it is programming or using devices, using different applications. You need to have such knowledge. Okay, you need to have knowledge about the security area and related issues. For instance, if you are accessing banking organization, you need to have a deep knowledge about security within the banking domain, the banking environment, or any types of other environment. You need to have different types of security, whether, let's say, in terms of security related to how you can bypass firewall, or how you can use, for instance, some specific programs to access those devices. Okay, and you have to have the knowledge about high technical to learn the sophisticated attacks, because let's say basic attacks might be detected, might be defended. So you need to have, let's say, high skills, and you need to have, let's say, advanced technical knowledge, okay, used by hackers to get access, because maybe with the basic tools you will not be successful for penetrating or accessing the devices. However, if you use more advanced tool, more advanced skills, you might get access to the system. So you need to have such information, because sometimes you do pen testing on a system and you use the basic skills, and those basic skills are detected, and you will say, no, yes, the system is secure because I did this and this, and I wasn't successful in penetrating that system. However, if you are a real hacker with advanced skills, that hacker will use more advanced techniques which you don't know, and he might manage to get inside the machine. So it is very important to, let's say, to have that high technical knowledge. As non-technical skills, okay, that are related to ethical hackers, you have the ability to learn. Okay, you should be able to learn quickly, and if there is any new technology, any new tools that is on the market used by a hacker, you have that, let's say, capability of learning quickly that new technology or that new tool. Okay, strong work ethics. That means you should have, let's say, good, should abide to the ethics when you work within an organization, and you should have, let's say, a problem-solving mind. Okay, and you should have a good communication skills. You should be committed to abide to the regulations and the policies of that organizations which are related to the security. Okay, and you should be aware about if there is any law or standard that organization is following. Okay, because you need to verify whether, let's say, you are when you access, for instance, any system or you do pen testing, you need to know the law. Okay, you need to know, to protect yourself, at least to protect yourself. Okay, as a pen tester, if you are hired by any type of organization. There are other, let's say, methodology, okay, which are common. So when we talk about, let's say, hacking steps, reconnaissance, we have already done that. You can find the scanning. Okay, we do have what is infiltration and escalation. We have already done that, which is gaining access and escalating your privilege. And you do have exfiltration. Exfiltration, that means when you do have here, you do have an attacker that will try to gain elevated or unrestricted access to a system that is protected. You try to elevate, let's say, and gain access to an unrestricted access. That means you are not limited for a specific, let's say, time or to a specific application. You try to get access to everything, okay, within an environment. Okay, even if that environment that you have infiltrated that environment, and I want to have more control, okay, without any limit, without any being blocked by any types of means, whether it is an applications or device that will protect or that will prevent you from accessing some specific part of the system. You can find also, as part of, let's say, hacking steps, access extension. Okay, access extension. That means here where you get access to the system and you install in additional, for instance, exploit. For instance, you will install new malware. You will install new rootkits in inside that system in order just to continue access to the system to the higher level. Another phase that can be found in hacking steps, and this is not, let's say, always found, but in some types of attack it is there, okay, which is, let's say, here where you try to do a destructive act. So that means you access that system and you destroy the system. Okay, here because your intent as a hacker is to totally damage the system. Okay, and we do find obfuscation, which is, as we mentioned, which is clearing tracks. That means you try to not to show your presence, that you were there. You try to hide your existence. Okay, you try to hide your any traces that will be shown to within the log file, for instance. You try to obfuscate it and you try to hide it. Okay, this is in general, let's say, the most common steps that can be found. As I mentioned, it depends on the attack. Okay, but the basic one, okay, are those we have covered: reconnaissance, scanning, gaining access, maintaining access, and clearing tracks. You can find in between some other extra, let's say, phases for hacking. Okay.
Okay.
For the, let's say, for the steps of ethical hacking, okay, this is just a schematic way. You do planning. Okay, you plan your attack. Before you attack, you need to do some types of planning. You try to discover, okay, because here we talk about as a penetration test. You can see here we do have a reporting. A hacker will not do a report because we are talking, we are covering this course and as a pen testing course. That means the main objectives of pen testing or ethical hacking is to try to discover, okay, the vulnerabilities. You do the attack, you exploit those vulnerabilities, and you keep trying to discover any vulnerabilities existing within the system you are testing. Then you report. You will have, because you have been hired to discover and report any loophole within some specific systems, any vulnerabilities existing within that system. You need to report it and tell, let's say, the higher management, this is what I have discovered, these are the vulnerabilities, and this is the attack that I have done based on exploiting those vulnerabilities, and this is the report which details everything about the discovery, the attack, and so on, which machine. Everything should be detailed in the report. So this is in general, let's say, how, let's say, pen tester will do his work. Okay, as we mentioned, first thing is to do the planning. You have to plan for your attack. You have to plan what type of attack you are going to launch against that organization, based, as we mentioned last time, based on the, let's say, the amount of information you have, whether you are going to have black box, gray box, or white box testing. Okay, based on that, you plan your attack, and you try to do whatever information you do have on your hand. In terms of types of penetration test attacks, you can do technical attack, you can do administrative attack, you can do physical attack. Okay, technical attack by use, for instance, attacking, for instance, the DOS. Okay, I will use DOS, I will use denial of service to bombard, let's say, that specific machines with pings. Okay, this is a technical thing. You can have administrative attacks where you have to use the access control. Okay, you manage to get a username and password, and you try to attack that machine by accessing to that machine using administrative control access. Okay, like username, password, which you got in somehow. Okay, or physical access attack. Physically, you try to get inside that premises, organization premises, and physically you damage the server, for instance, you disconnect the network, any physical damage or any physical attack that you can do. Okay, this is, let's say, these are the type of penetration tests that you can do. And the same thing here, you have pre-assessment, assessment, and post-assessment. Pre-assessment, which is, let's say, when you gather the information before you attack, you do the assessment. When you do the attacks and you try to discover vulnerabilities and which attacks has been successful, and post-assessment, what will be later after, let's say, you do the assessment. In terms of the laws and ethical standard, okay, there should be some types of trust between the ethical hacker, okay, and the client you are doing pen testing. Okay, you cannot, for instance, in both direction. Okay, when you do test, for instance, the client should place the trust in that ethical hacker that he is a skilled one, he is the right person we have hired, he will not damage our organization's system, for instance. Okay, because if there is no trust between the ethical hacker or pen tester and the client, that means there will be some, let's say, as we mentioned, let's say something that will come as a contrary to what you are expect. Okay, that means if there is no trust, if anything happens within that organization, they will blame you. Okay, because they didn't put trust on you. So it is very important when you are hired or when you are working as a pen tester to have such a relation. Okay, they should trust on you. Okay, in order just to make you confident and at your ease in order to do the specific tests within that organization system. Also, you should be aware about the legal implication. Okay, you should know what will happen to you, for instance, if you go and do testing beyond what it has been mentioned in the legal document you have signed before. Okay, as we mentioned, you have been authorized to do some tests on XYZ machines with XYZ tests. Okay, and during your work, you added extra tests. You accessed extra machines that were not mentioned in the legal document. Okay, so you need to know, and something bad happened to those machines. You need to know what legal implications will be induced by such act. Okay, and this you have to know everything. That's why it is very important to rely on, let's say, that legal document where you should specify in details, let's say, your scope of testing. Here we talk about scope of testing, to which extent you are allowed to do your pen testing. Okay, which machines you are allowed to test, at what time, what type of tests you are allowed, whether if there is something happened during the test, let's say the company will pursue you, for instance, and take you to the court and pursue a legal action against you or not. So all those, you need to be aware about them in order just to, because you are in such situation that you have to protect yourself. Okay, based, and everything should be clear, and you will not do anything that is not that has not been agreed between you and the client you are doing the pen testing. Okay, and these are some types of ethical and law. There are many acts. Okay, these are, I think, USA one. There are many organizations that do have, let's say, ethical standard, and there are many laws that are, let's say, that you can follow in order to get information or to read and to get information about what type of, let's say, legal act, let's say, an organization can take against you if XYZ or ABC happened during the pen testing phase. Okay, these are for you for some certifications that are under penetration testing or ethical hacking that you can get it. There are different types of certifications related to many company, and each one has, let's say, its pro and cost. Some are widely used in the commercial in the market. Some others are specific to some environment and so on. But at the end, they are covering, let's say, pen testing aspects. Okay, we cannot say, let's say, this certificate is better than the other. Each one has its, let's say, own domain, and it is widely used to some specific domain and so on. Okay, so we conclude our chapter here. If you have any questions about for this first chapter.
Doctor, for the legal documents, do they always provide the legal document with the specific step that I have to do?
Yes.
Is there any possibility in ما يكون موجود وأسوي اللي أبغاه؟
لا, impossible. It is not, let's say, it's not good for you even. Okay.
So I should always ask for the legal documents. Exactly what I have.
There is a template. You have to follow some templates, and you have to discuss. For instance, you have to do meeting with, let's say, the director of the responsible for that organization, and they, for instance, you have your planning, and you have to specify that. You will tell them, for instance, I want to do this and this and this, and they will tell you, for instance, you will tell them, let's say, for instance, I want to do denial of service attack test. Okay, so you need from them to tell you which device or which computer within their systems you are allowed to do DOS. Okay, and at what time as well. Because, for instance, if you are doing DOS in a company that does have a production line, okay, you will stop the whole production. So it is not, let's say, beneficial to do testing. That's why you need to specify the devices. You need to specify the type of test, the time of testing, and if something happened, what whether they will pursue you in the legal, they will have a legal action against you or not. So everything should be detailed, just for the sake of protecting yourself. Okay, Shabab?
Okay.
Any other questions, Shabab?
Clear, Doctor.
طيب. Now I want for how many of you have installed or have accessed